guys, welcome to Bake with Better Batter. Today we are going to be making tortillas, flour tortillas. So if you thought that you needed to only use corn tortillas if you were gluten-free, I'm going to open the whole world of enchiladas and fajitas all the way back up to you. So I hope you enjoy this. This is actually a recipe you could do with gluten-free flour or regular flour. So even if you're not gluten-free, if you want to learn how to make tortillas at home, this will be a great thing for you. All right, so I'm going to put this away and we're going to get started. Okay, so today we're going to be making gluten-free tortillas, and we are going to be using about 3 cups of a good gluten-free cup-for-cup flour. Now obviously I like Better Batter because I'm the Better Batter lady, but you could use any good cup-for-cup flour. A good cup-for-cup flour should be able to be used in any normal recipe. If you can't use your flour in a normal recipe, it's not cup-for-cup. So once again, about 3 cups. We're going to go ahead and add that to our bowl. This is an easy recipe, guys. Like, when you realize how easy it is, you're going to feel ripped off for paying for tortillas for all these years. All right, then you're going to add about 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And you're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. And now it doesn't really matter what kind of salt you use for this. If you use a finer grain salt, a teaspoon is going to be a little saltier. If you use a coarse salt, it's going to affect the texture a little bit, but honestly, it's not very much. So use whatever salt you want. And we're going to mix this together. Now, this is actually a recipe you could make by hand, but I like my KitchenAid. Every time I use my KitchenAid, I think about my wedding. And the group of people who lovingly chipped in together to give it to me, they were mentors and teachers, and it just brings joy to my life. So I use my KitchenAid for everything. All right, gonna get loud here, sorry. All right, so we mix those ingredients together. The reason why we do that is because we want them to be evenly distributed when we add our fat. So the next thing we're gonna add for our tortillas is fat. Fat is what helps keep these things pliable. Now you really need to use a solid fat. Okay, so can you use lard? Yeah, that's like the original thing people use. Can you use bacon fat? Oh, for crying out loud, if you can use lard, you can use bacon fat. Can you use Crisco? Well, duh. Can you use palm shortening? Yes. Can you use coconut oil? Not really. The problem with coconut oil, even though it is a saturated fat, it is a solid fat, I'm going to show you something. Hopefully it will turn out. My kitchen is relatively warm. Coconut oil sometimes is solid and sometimes it's liquid. Let's see what it is today. Oh, okay. Well, today I'm going to show you coconut oil that is solid, okay? But at like 74 to 76 degrees, coconut oil starts to melt and becomes liquid. And for this recipe, you really want a solid fat so it mixes in and becomes particles in the dry mix, and then it will melt whenever you add your water and put it on the griddle. So solid fat, palm shortening, Crisco, lard. In a pinch, you could use butter or bacon fat, not coconut oil, okay? So we're gonna add that to our mixer. Now in our mixer, we've already put in our flour, baking powder, and our salt. So we're just gonna add this. You need about 4 to 6 tablespoons. I personally prefer it a little bit fattier. You don't want any less than 4 tablespoons, but you don't really want any more than 6 for 3 cups of flour. All right, so now we're gonna get a little bit loud again. Sorry. And I always hope that my flour doesn't just fly out. We're gonna mix it and mix it and mix it and mix it. You don't really want me singing, I know. But we are going to thoroughly combine the fat. This is not a pie crust. You don't want big flakes. You want it to be really fine and crumbly. I'm going to get loud here for a second. You can't see it, but it is smoking. Not like smoking, because that's bad for you. All right, now I'm going to show you something so you can see what I mean by having it thoroughly incorporated. All right, so can you see what I am talking about when I say you want it to be thoroughly mixed in? See how it's really crumbly, almost like cornmeal? Okay, that's how you want your fat to be. Now you've got your dry mix. To be honest with you, if you make tortillas all the time, I would make up a huge batch of this. And then you could just add the water when you're ready, and it's almost like instant mix. So we are gonna add about 1.5 cups of water. Now, if you'll notice, when I am calling for, you don't ever get to see because I pre-measure, but when I'm calling for a cup of flour, I am using a dry measuring cup. In America, this isn't extremely standardized. It can hold anywhere by weight between 4 and 5 ounces of flour. A wet liquid measuring cup is not the same. You cannot exchange these two, okay? So you want to do a liquid measuring cup, about 1.5 cups, and the way to accurately measure it, okay, is you put it on your counter, you put your water in, and then you get down. I get down. He lifts me up. All right, and you look, okay, and the top of the water should just touch the mark. If it does, you have enough water. If it doesn't, you need to add a little bit more. We're going to put this into the mixer. Yeah, let's be careful and make sure I don't splash all over. And I always leave a little bit out because depending on the humidity of the day, with tortillas, you don't want them to be sticky. Okay, we actually really want to be able to work with this. So I leave a little bit out, and then I will add as much extra as I need. On a really dry day, I might actually need to go to the sink. So I'm feeling, oh, I have so many texture issues. I hate that. Oh, no! You really want it to be like Play-Doh. I will show you when I am sure. It's like it needs like a tablespoon more water. So we're gonna add like just a tiny tidge, just to promise. You'll know it's right because it'll act kind of like Play-Doh in the bowl. This is what your tortilla dough should look like as you throw it all over the place. Okay, can you see this? All right, so we are going to roll it out. Now, you can make this, traditional tortilla recipes call for the dough to rest for about a half an hour. And you can do that, but honestly, with gluten-free, it's really not necessary. So half the time, I just ignore that step. And you can ignore it too, all right? Because I gave you permission. And I'm in charge of like my own brain. Okay, if you see smoke behind me, it's because my griddle is getting hot. If you hear the fire alarm go off, we're all gonna run out of the house. Or let's be honest, we're gonna turn the fire alarm off because I know it's just smoke and I'm going to pretend like it didn't happen. All right, so we are going to roll it out. This is my Pampered Chef rolling mat. I always get questions. I bought it 10 years ago. I have no idea if they still sell them, but you can get one on Amazon. And we are going to measure out about 1/2 cup to 3/4 cup of dough. Okay, let me show you what that looks like. You can see this is not sticky, okay? The reason we want a lot of dough, actually, I'm going to put a little extra in there, is because we want to be able to roll this out. I'm going to show you my trick for making perfect tortillas. We want to be able to roll this out bigger than we actually need. All right, so I do use just like a tiny little bit of flour to roll this out. Did you see that? I just basically gave it a promise, kiss and a promise, and then I spread it out with my hands. because you don't want flour on your griddle. Trust me, it will scorch, then you will have smoke, then we will run out of the house, and the neighbors will think we're all crazy. All right, my favorite rolling pin. I have 3, but I always use this one. So I don't know why. Like, I'm supposedly a minimalist, except for when it comes to my kitchen. Okay, and I always lift it, make sure that's not sticking. Just a promise, just a little promise. Kind of like I promise we'll have tortillas for dinner tonight, boys. Yeah, Mom. That's what you always say. Then you catch the house on fire. And you just roll it out. Rolling with the homies. Rolling with the homies. All right. So here's a secret. You want your tortilla to be really thin, okay? We are talking, if you notice it starts sticking, just promise it a little bit more. I never promised you a rose garden, but I did promise you tortillas. Roll it out a little bit more. You want it thin because you want those little bubbles to form. So help me. You don't want it too thin or it's going to become impossible to work with, but you do want it thin. Now I'm going to show you my trick. Are you ready? A pie plate and a spatula. This is my favorite bagel knife, but you can use a spatula. Use something, if you're rolling on a rolling mitt, do not use a strong, sharp edge. There's something nice and smooth that wouldn't cut your hand, or you'll ruin it. Angela, I absolutely do take requests. All you need to do is post your requests. Usually I ask you to post them at the end of the video, but you can post them anytime. I go back and look at this. All right, so I put my pie plate down. I take my bagel knife and I just cut around the edge. Okay, tortillas, gluten-free tortillas, they're a labor of love. If you're gonna make them, make a huge stack of them. Because honestly, this is a lot of work for dinner. Oh my gosh, but they're totally worth it if you like tortillas and you don't like those disgusting gluten-free ones that are like $1 a pop, okay? You could use a tortilla press. I have one, but I always use it for my corn tortillas and I never use it for this for whatever reason. I think because the tortilla press is like this big and I want a fajita burrito sized, baleada sized tortilla. Okay, so can you see the beautiful roundness of it? Now, here's the trick. We are going to transfer this tortilla to that plate, hot plate. But gluten-free dough doesn't stretch and it tears easily, and this is very thin. So my trick is I roll it. Rolling with the homies. Okay, so it's like a cigar. It's like a huge taquito, okay? Now I'm going to take you over to our cooking station and I'm going to show you what I do there to get delicious, delicious tortillas, okay? You can't see me, but you can hear me. I bet sometimes you wish you couldn't. All right. Can you see me? All right, let's make sure you can see me. You can see my griddle. Now, I know that the comments are covering up the bottom of this video. So you just need to swipe right and the comments will go away, okay? And then you can see what I'm doing. So remember, we have our little taquito looking roll. Here's what I would do, guys. This is a lot of back and forth. Unless you need to get your steps in for the day, I would roll these all out and roll them all up and get them all ready. This recipe is going to make you 8 or 9 of this size tortilla or 12 to 16 6-inch tortillas. So you want to make sure to get everything ready to roll. Then you would cover this with a damp towel, okay? So there are a couple things you're going to need. First of all, you are going to need a really heavy pan, a really big heavy cast iron skillet, a heavy cast iron griddle, or a comal. Okay, you can use any of those, but you don't want a lightweight saute pan. It is not going to work for this. You need hot, even heat. Okay, I have that. The way to have perfect heat for a tortilla is you should be able to hold your hand about an inch above the griddle, okay? And when you get to about an inch, it should be a little too uncomfortable and you should pull your hand back. I learned to make these on a comal over open fire in Honduras. So nothing tastes that good, but this is doable, okay? If you do these on your grill with like a heavy cast iron, you can kind of get the similar flavor. You're also gonna need a paper towel with some solid fat. Once again, you do you use whatever kind of fat you want, but it needs to be for high heat because this is going to get about 400 to 500 degrees. You're only going to oil enough of the griddle to lay out your tortilla. That helps with the browning. If you do everything on the griddle, you're going to start smoking and scorching. So I just do a little bit. Before I do that, because you have to move once you start, you're going to want a spatula, unless you have fingers of asbestos, okay? You're going to want a slightly damp little folded tea towel. I'm going to show you what I do with this. Now, different strokes for different folks. This is what I learned to do in Honduras, where they think that a good flour tortilla should puff when you're cooking it. So, I just rub a little bit of solid fat right where I'm going to lay down the tortilla. Can you see it smoking a bit? All right, normally I would have my exhaust fan on, but then you couldn't hear me. And I am going to roll out my tortilla. Pat it down. Oh, let's be honest, things don't always go perfectly. Sometimes you tear them. Sometimes you break them. Sometimes you tear them and break them. Sometimes they come out like lovely, but I talked too long. Instead of just rolling it and covering it with a damp towel, I let it dry out. That's how quickly it works. I'll show you the ones I made earlier because they're pretty-ful. Okay, so I'm going to take my towel and I'm going to set my timer for about a minute. On mine, it only takes about a minute. You're going to see that the bubbles, can you use an electric pan? Yeah, but you need to get it real hot, real hot. Can you see that, guys? I hope you can see that there's going to be little bubbles forming. And I am going to be taking my slightly damp towel. I'm going to be pushing down the tortilla during the first minute to get the whole surface contacted with the hot griddle. This is going to give me the best result. It's got about 30 seconds left. I have to show off. This is what it looks like if you do it right. Okay? Do you see how bendy that is? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Okay, and I made these earlier today. They're beautiful. I made them this morning, and they're still flexy. Okay, so we got about 10 seconds left on the one side. Sometimes it can take up to 2 minutes, but often I find on my comal, only a minute. I do not have hands of asbestos, so I use my towel on the one side. I check it, flip it. Okay, and you can see it's got a little char. That little bit of char is what makes these things taste so good. Now, I will tell you, set your timer for another minute and talk to your friends. Same thing, take your towel, and wherever you see it puffing, just kind of push down. Just kind of push down, okay? These take about a minute per side. If you have a really large comal, you could do like 4 of them. If you're making smaller ones, you can make 2 or 3 of them. But you want to just keep an eye on it. If you overcook it, you get a cracker, okay? And what we're looking for is a tortilla. Now, it will be a little bit crispy when you first pull it off, and that's why we steam it as soon as it's cooked. So we are just standing here, waiting, and I'm singing, and I'm not an elf, and I'm singing. Dab, dab, dab. I shouldn't dab. I am too old to even know what dabbing is. Let's be honest. Okay, are we ready? Now. I really should get a quieter timer. I'm going to take this off the heat. Once again, I do not have asbestos hands. I'm going to check. As you can see, one side is slightly less brown than the other. And I'm going to place it on my stack I usually lift up the first couple and put it solidly inside the stack, okay? And then you're going to take a damp. I wish you could feel this. This is my favorite Norwex cloth. No, I don't sell them, and yes, I love them. You take it, you dampen it. It should not be dripping, okay? It doesn't even leave wet spots on me, but it is damp to the touch. And you're gonna lay it on top of your hot tortillas, okay? That is gonna steam them and keep them soft and soften up the surface. It's also gonna keep them soft until you're ready to eat. And you're just gonna keep going, all right? So when you're done, you should have a stack of tortillas that is bendy for my friendy, and that can be rolled up. It could be deep fried. You could put taquito filling in it. You could do all kinds of things. But I am going to show you something. Since I learned how to make them in Honduras, I am going to show you my favorite, which is baleadas, which maybe you've never heard of, but it's something I love. So I'm going to take you over. Ooh. Can you see? Can you see? You can, Debbie, you can make them ahead of time, and you can freeze them. They might be a little stiff when they're coming out of the freezer. So you're going to want to zap them in the microwave, just like store-bought. You're going to want to zap them in the microwave for about 10 seconds per tortilla with a wet paper towel or a wet cloth, okay? So let me get, whoop, I'm getting hiccupy. Let me get my delicious tortilla, okay? Remember, if it's not workable as a dough, just add a little more water, okay? I'm going to add, now I pre-mashed some of these, so I apologize in advance, but I'm going to add some black beans. They look gross, but they taste good, okay? And Honduran tortillas are actually thicker than Mexican tortillas. So you wouldn't make them quite as thin. You'd make them about twice as thick as you would expect if you wanted a true baleada. Okay, and then I'm going to add a little bit of cheese. Now you could use Daya, you could use whatever vegan cheese you want. You could use cheddar if you really want, and you have an aversion to goat cheese like my sister does. We're cow dairy allergic, and when I was in Honduras, the goat and sheep dairy is what it tasted like. So you can add a little bit of crumbled goat cheese, or fresh goat cheese, or any kind of goat cheese, because frankly, if it's goaty, it probably tastes right, or feta cheese. Okay, gonna add that. Now, you could just fold this over, put it back on the comal and heat it up, or you could add, of course, some slices of fresh avocado for beautiful fat. You could add some hot peppers for some picante beautifulness, and you can add some fresh cabbage. Yum. And have yourself a nice vegetarian meal. If you leave the cheese out, or you use vegan or dairy-free cheese, you can have a nice vegan meal. If you add chicken, you can have a nice carnivore meal, which I'm sure my husband would prefer. But that is tortillas in a nutshell. So I hope you had a good time. Remember that if you have a request for something that you would like make gluten-free, or you would like a tutorial or demonstration on, just put it in the comments section. And every Wednesday at 3 o'clock, I do a live demonstration. I do hope you enjoyed this. I hope you share it, and I hope you tell your friends, and I hope we become really good friends, because honestly and truly, I love you. I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye.